On Tuesday, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre spoke about what the White House is doing to prepare for a potential railroad worker strike. According to the press secretary, Biden and cabinet members have been working with railroad unions and companies to prevent the strike. If a deal cannot be made, the White House is working on a contingency plan to avoid major supply chain and travel disruptions. According to a recent Forbes article, this potential strike would be the first in decades and could potentially shut down the entire nation's rail system, which would cost $2 billion a day. Jean-Pierre did not hold back in saying that the strike would be damaging to the economy, stating point blank, quote, "A shutdown is not acceptable."
Is there any progress being made in these talks, Karine?
Again, we, as I mentioned, the president spoke to both the unions and the companies yesterday. We continue to encourage both sides to continue the conversation, the talks at the negotiation table. We are encouraged that they're doing that in good faith. And so, again, the secretaries that I mentioned, Secretary of Department of Labor, Secretary of Department of Transportation and Agriculture, have been working through this since early spring, and we're committed to make sure that we are helpful here.
How damaging will a strike be to the U.S. economy, which seems to be in sort of a fragile stage at this point?
So look, I mean, we're going to be very honest. A shutdown would have a tremendous impact on our supply chains, as you all know. It's going to have a ripple effects into our overall economy on American families. A shutdown is not acceptable. That is not something that we want. It risks harming families. It risks harming businesses and whole communities. And we have made that clear empathetically and repeatedly to both parties. So we are aware of the impact this might have, which is why, again, the president put together the PEB, the board, back in July, to make sure that there was a negotiation framework, to make sure there were neutral arbiters that could help get to a solution here. I'm going to try and get around because I haven't.
If I can just follow up on this question. So the President's Emergency Board didn't just create a framework, it proposed recommendations. Recommendations accepted by 10 of the unions and the companies. The 2 unions that are talking about the dispute have not accepted these recommendations. What's the President's view of those recommendations? Is he urging them to accept the recommendations before Friday's deadline?
So I'm not going to get ahead of the conversations that are happening right now. What we are saying is we want to continue to see the good faith. We believe that the negotiations, the conversations are happening in good faith. We want to continue to see that. They are continue to be at the table. And so that's what we're going to push for at this time.
This specific issue is a question of the workers' rights to take time off. They say that they should have the right to call in sick, pay respects to their relatives when they want to take bereavement, and they're not able to do that. So the president's sympathetic to that, because that's the primary issue here.
Yeah, so as you know, the president strongly supports collective bargaining as the best process available for employers and working people to reach mutual acceptable solutions. But here's the reality, and this is what the president understands, which is, he's focused on how this is going to hurt families and farms and businesses and communities. They could be harmed by this rail shutdown. So again, he encourages them to continue to negotiate at the table in good faith.
Given the potential risk of harm, is the president prepared to sign a bill enacting the recommendations of the President's Emergency Board?
So look, the rail companies, we have to remember that they are, and the unions have worked out agreements in previous negotiations. This is not the first time, and they can do this again. So we are going to encourage them to stay at the negotiation table and in good faith.